Christchurch in New Zealand, and my profound condolences to all of us for having created and living in a world in which such atrocities take place. And my heart's condolences to those of you, those of us, that as you look at the faces of the victims, they look like me. They look like my father. They look like my uncles. One of them has my last name. This could be so many of us, and for us to realize that indeed, even if you are almost quite literally on the other side of the world, that the networks of white supremacy, and they should be named as such, and racism, xenophobia, hatred, and violence they are networked, they are organized, and they are picking up clues and cues from one another. That the terrorist was blasting Serbian national music on his way to the shootings, and has the names of people with the blood of Bosnians written on his guns, and talks about being inspired by none other than our own Commander-in-Chief. And as Dr. King and others have told us, if those who organize for war are prepared and organized, then those of us who yearn to see a world in which we and our children and our as of yet unborn grandchildren live in a world of peace and justice and love and dignity, that we have to be equally organized. So even with the heavy heart that so many of us have, I cannot imagine a more apropos and relevant conversation than looking at the legacy of Gandhi in a globalized network connection, including the reception of Gandhi among Muslims. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Professor Dobe and Professor Ramaswamy.
The simple question at the center of my research is this: what were Gandhi's relationships with Muslims and Islam, and what were their relationships with him? Today, I'll focus on the latter piece of that question, on Muslims themselves. But first, a brief word on Gandhi, of course. He probably deserves a bit of attention. Dominant scholarship on Gandhi's religion, often itself overshadowed by historical and political studies, have focused sensibly on Gandhi's Hinduism, or more recently, his Western influences, from Protestant Christian missionaries and Western anti-colonial thinkers to theosophical, Victorian, and even Western scientific sensibilities. The lack of attention to the Muslim-Gandhi relationship is mirrored in the overall visual record, especially photographs. The exception to this is, as the saying goes, one that proves the rule. Images of Gandhi with Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the founding father of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. These images tend to reinforce their overall opposition, mirroring two nations theory shared by Jinnah himself and the Hindutva nationalism of V.D. Savarkar. Even the small trove of emerging scholarship attuned to what Faisal Devji calls Gandhi's, quote, prejudice for Muslims, end quote, while vital, risks sidelining the voices and visions of Gandhian Muslims themselves. The view of Gandhi as a kind of great man or a religious genius, or even a political theorist of revolution comparable to Lenin and Mao. These views are particular examples of a wider historiographical problem. As Ramachandra Guha points out, most studies take Gandhi's writings, the massive collected works of Mahatma Gandhi, virtually as their sole primary source. And there's so many works that you can't blame them for just focusing on that. But this marginalizes the voices and visions of the myriad around him, those who shaped him and, importantly, who challenged him, who, as Sumati says in her recent talk, arguably made the Mahatma possible. Here, Gandhi, unlike in so many iconic images, is surrounded by, even as he towers above, the so-called Indian masses. I'll get to his size in a minute, of course. The man who produced this image and the accompanying Urdu text, my focus today, is the Muslim thinker, spiritual leader, author, and journalist Khwaja Hasan Nizami. Nizami was a contemporary of Gandhi, born into the Sufi lineage of the famous shrine in New Delhi, the Durga of Nizamuddin Aulia. Nizami, the author, was a scholar of Persian and Urdu who wrote well over 100 Urdu works, including one of the most referenced histories of the Indian Rebellion of 1857. Nizami's other text, the Gandhi Nama, likewise develops an image of Gandhi as a kind of spiritual super peasant, at home with the Indian masses through text and image. The Urdu describing Gandhi's appearance develops a sense of the great yet humble, and again, with something of the comic. Nizami writes that Gandhi's eyes, quote, are not particularly attractive, and his ears protrude. His voice doesn't sound like thunder, but at least it's clear and loud enough. When he's laughing, he shows his straggly teeth. He will speak openly before friends or enemies, not at all concerned about whom he's talking to. One of my favorite images, which captures some of this. This imagistic style reinforces something of the visual manifestation of a powerful figure marked simultaneously by lowliness and humor, which also creates something of the effect of the faceless cover. For Nizami, it was only upon Gandhi's return to India that the emerging Congress leader developed religiously, gaining a spirituality or ruhaniyat, what he lacked in South Africa. The paradox of a humble greatness was foreshadowed not in South Africa, according to Nizami, but by Gandhi's birth. Like all prophets, this birth happened not among the great and powerful, but in a poor region among a weak community, Kamzor Kam. As Nizami admits, the strong connection between Gandhi and Islam, even with Muhammad, is not how the majority of Muslims saw it in his own day, even if his visionary future imagines a time when that will not only be possible, but prevalent. Much as the status of images in Islamic traditions is contested and multiple, so Nizami's text imagines, presents, and explores a wider range of possible Muslim attitudes towards Gandhi. Even, I would suggest, multiple Gandhis. So for example, when he's wandering around Kabul, a woman who doesn't like Gandhi slaps Nizami in the face. You're the one who knows a lot about Gandhi, right? Whack. Right? So not everyone's convinced, but a lot of people are.